Hello again. Round 4 of the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup has concluded. Those places in the last 16 are locked in. Yes, I am wearing a little branded hoodie. Not sponsored, I pay for my own money. So let's jump straight in and see how the Irish provinces fared in that fourth round of the Champions and Challenge Cup. Firstly, Ulster are through to the last 16 of the Challenge Cup after beating Stade Francais 26-12 at home at the Affidea in Belfast. They finished first in their pool, Pool 3, with 17 points. I actually missed the first half of the match. I had been watching the Manchester Derby, which I turned off in disgust as I am a Man City fan. When I'm not in Dublin at the Rugby, I am in Manchester. Actually, this season, I've compared Leinster to Man City a lot, often making hard work of the first half, going behind, and then leaving a struggle to make up ground in the second, a bit like Leinster's story yesterday, which we'll get to later. On the other hand, Ulster seemed to have the opposite. They had a really strong first half, going in 26-0 up. They had the bonus point already secured, but then they seemed to make hard work of the second half. They seemed to tire in the second. The defence seemed to slip a bit, especially in the middle part of the match. Also, they struggled at the set piece. The line-out struggled. They had 64% line-out success compared to 100% for Stade. And then the scrum, they only had 60% scrum success compared to Stade's 91. It's something they have struggled with all season. I look back at their figures in the URC. In terms of line-outs, they have a line-out success rate of 83%, which puts them in 11th place in the URC. Then looking at their scrums in the URC, they have a success rate of 88%. Scrum-wise, they're 13th in the URC, just under Leinster in 12th position with 89% success at the scrum, and just above Munster, who are in 15th, second last place, with 87% success rate. In terms of the highest province, scrum-wise, that's Connacht. They're in 8th place with a 95% success rate at the scrum. A worrying statistic from the match, Ulster didn't score at all in the second half. Their scorers in the first half were Tom O'Toole, Robert Balakoon, Stuart McCluskey and Nathan Doak, with Tom O'Toole scoring in the first minute and then their last try coming from Nathan Doak in the 30th minute. Stade also had more possession and territory, 55% possession and 59% of the territory. Either way, I'm really delighted to see Ulster go through to that last 16. I really like Richie Murphy. I think he's put a really good squad together. A few of the youngsters coming through. Bryn Ward, he picked up the Player of the Match award. Also his brother Zach. I just looked up some statistics for his brother in the Challenge Cup. In terms of metres made, he's top with 273 metres. He's also second for defenders beating with 21, and clean breaks, he's fourth with 6. So Richie Murphy seems to be working pretty well up there. Also, a mention has to go to Mark Sexton. Since he has arrived from Connacht as assistant coach at Ulster, he's been constantly mentioned by Ulster players when they work from the media as someone that's really helped their game. Lately, it was Nathan Joke this week. He said, and when I see an opportunity, I go, should I do it? Should I not do it? And he's like, go for it, express yourself. I think that's been massive. As for what's next for Ulster, they face Scarlets in round 10 of the URC on Saturday, 24th of January at 3 p.m. Now we go to Leinster. Leinster still seem to be stuck in second gear, but they still managed to grind out those wins. Final score for Bayonne versus Leinster was 13-22 to Leinster, 1-3. The first try coming from Sorelli McCalla from Bayonne. He struck first. Then the halftime score was 10-3 to Bayonne. Leinster had a few opportunities in the first half, but nothing really came off. The closest was a near try from JJ Kenny, who just lost control of the ball. And then from Thomas Clarkson, who actually dotted down the ball but was ruled out due to a double movement. In that first half, they just scraped a penalty from Harry Byrne. Then it took until the 55th minute for Leinster to actually strike. Dan Sheehan went going over at the 55th minute, then Sam Prendergast at the 73rd minute, and then Max Egan with the hammer blow at 79 minutes. There was also a potential Jimmy O'Brien try. It looked like he had scored, but it was ruled out at 61 minutes. Probably the biggest talking point since that match has been injuries. Tadhg Furlong, this was meant to be his return from injury. He hadn't played since that Christmas derby against Munster on the 27th of December. Leo confirmed that when he went off 16 minutes into the game, it was just feeling a tightness in his calf, and that was according to the Irish Independent. And it just seemed to be more calf issues for Leinster. Tommy O'Brien then exited the game just after the second half. I think he only lasted about 40 seconds into that second half, again with a calf injury. On top of further calf injuries to Andrew Porter and Rabah Slimani, there seems to be a calf issue epidemic in Leinster, it seems. And that wasn't just all on the injury front for Leinster. Leinster lost Robbie Henshaw to a leg injury, and then Murray Kinsella, he reported that Robbie Henshaw had left the ground in a knee brace, so that doesn't look good for him. Also, Ginny O'Brien, who again, like Tadhg Furlong, was making his return from injury, he left the field at 66 minutes, injured, we think, and he was replaced by Luke McGrath. Again, there was more shuffling in the backs for Leinster with that full back role kind of up in the air at the moment. So more injury worries for Leo and co, and also Andy Farrell, who names the squad this Wednesday. On a positive note, though, it's 31 consecutive wins for Leinster in the pool stages. They dominated the possession and territory with 64% of the possession and 62% of the territory. Bayonne did a really good job at slowing down Leinster at the breakdown. A word that featured a lot in my notes was snaffle. They really slowed down that ball, got in that ball, didn't let Leinster get any quick ball. And then when Leinster did find a bit of space, those passes just didn't go off. Those little errors snuck in. It was all these little mistakes that we've constantly seen throughout the season. They just weren't being clinical. A word that's been mentioned, I think, nearly every press conference for Leinster so far is that lack of being clinical in those key parts of the game. Also, there's a few knock-ons. Again, in fairness, it was greasy, but it's these little things that we've noticed that have accumulated for Leinster this season so far. Then at the scrum and line out, Bayonne, they did their best to try and slow things down there as well. It seemed like an age to get every line out sorted, to get any scrum set, and they were just slowing things down, slowing down the tempo for Leinster. But those tactics didn't really play. While they did slow Leinster down, they didn't really play in Bayonne's favour. Leinster came out the better of both. They had 95% success rate at the line out, and they had 100% success rate compared to Bayonne's just 50%. And then a big issue last week was the tackle completion rate. It was only 68% against La Rochelle, but this week it was 80%. Still not great, but better than last week. The discipline seemed pretty okay. Nothing to really write home about. No yellow cards, which is a positive, I guess. They had 9 penalties compared to Bayonne's 8. And they no yellow cards, as I said, other than the yellow card for Bayonne, for Yantes, for that deliberate knock-on. So not much of a bang for Leinster, but securing that win still, the home tie in the last 16. But it's going to be an uphill battle from here for Leinster. They're going to need to up those gears if they want to progress past that round of 16. So in terms of their pool, they finish in top spot in Pool 3 with 18 points, and they'll face Edinburgh at home. That'll be on the weekend of April 3rd, 4th and 5th. As for what's next for Leinster, they face Connacht next Saturday, the 24th of January, in round 10 of the URC at 5:30 at Dexcom Stadium, the grand opening of the Clan Stand. So there'll be some occasion for Connacht and Leinster. And then we go on to Munster. Oh, Munster. I probably yelled more at the TV during this match than at the Man City match, and don't get me wrong, I was yelling at both. They both were pretty frustrating. Munster are out of the Champions Cup, unfortunately. It finished 29-31 at Thomond Park against Cast. It was Tadhg Beirne's 100 game for Munster. I don't think it'll be one he'll be looking back at fondly. It's the first time since 2020 that they haven't got out of the pool stages. There were 5 tries to 4, 5 for Munster, 2 from Craig Casey, who's back from that shoulder injury, 1 from Tacker Abrams, and then 2 from Edmund Adogbo. It's now 4 losses on the trot for Munster, 2 home and 2 away. However, it's not all bad. They now take a place in the Challenge Cup last 16 alongside La Rochelle after their collapse at home, losing to Harlequin 17-27. Also after Gloucester were beaten by Toulon. So they now face a tie away against Exeter on the weekend of April 3rd, 4th and 5th. They had the Brexit share of the territory. They had 52% of the territory and they had 54% of the possession. Halftime score was 12-17. Craig Casey, he battled through that neck injury from last week to score 2 tries in the first half. Then Tacker Abrams scored to even the score at 46 minutes to 17 all. However, Jack Crowley missed that conversion. Then Edwin Adogbo, he added another to bring Munster ahead to 22-17. Again, Crowley missed the conversion after that try. However, the killer blow was a yellow card from Tom Farrell 63 minutes in. Dangerous clear out on Christian and Bang Diang. Keane Tracy from the Irish Independent pointed out on Twitter, Munster had 4 yellow cards in their 3 Champions Cup pool defeats and they conceded 52 points in that time. After that, Tom Farrell yellow card cast, then got 2 tries at 67 minutes and 72 minutes. But then Munster struck back with a try from Edwin Adogbo at the 77-minute mark. Jack Crowley secured the conversion in that instance, but it just wasn't enough for Munster. Cast also had a try chalked off earlier from a forward pass. However, those 3 missed conversions from Jack Crowley, those 6 points, could have proved crucial. Just looking at the kick success for Munster in that game was only at 40%. However, a lot was made of Jack Crowley's kicking record. So I went and had a look at the figures on the URC and they aren't the worst actually. When you look at it, his kick success rate is 76% in the URC. Tackle wise, he's made 64 tackles, 4 missed tackles. His tackle success rate is at 91%, which I think is higher than the other 2 potentials that are being mentioned, Harry Byrne and Sam Prendergast. He's also had 2 tries and 3 assists. I looked at Harry Byrne as well. His kick success rate in the URC is at 63%, so obviously lower than Jack Crowley's. He also has a lower tackle success rate with 73%. And then I looked at some of the key stats for Sam Prendergast. He actually had the highest kick success rate with 82%. He also had 4 try assists, 1 try, 49 carries and 152 metres gained. He also has the lowest tackle success rate at 64%. However, it wasn't all bad for Jack Crowley. I really like him as a player. I don't wish to be pointing the finger at him. Just one of the positive stats from that game. He finished the game with 18 carries, more than any other player on the pitch. So that's from EK Rugby Analysis. Then after the game, Captain Tadhg Beirne said, "We weren't switched on and we weren't good enough in those moments and they were able to exert more pressure onto us and capitalised on it." So Munster finished up in 5th place in Pool 2 with 8 points. Then looking forward into the URC, they now face Dragons at home next Friday, the 23rd of January at 7:45 at Thomond Park. Finally, we move on to Connacht's demolition job on Montauban at the Dexcom. That finished up 75-14. There was 13 tries, 11 for Connacht and 2 for Montauban. And the try scorers for Connacht were Paul Boyle, Cian Prendergast, Sam Gilbert, Ballinaman, Harry West, Matthew Devine, Sean Jansen, Shane Jennings and Dylan Tierney Martin. And then the try scorers for Montauban were Jean Su and Paul Vallet. Just bless the Montauban supporters who made the journey over to Galway. They were actually spotted on the camera giving thumbs up. They seem to be enjoying their trip to Galway and I hope they have a nice trip over here. Connacht finished in 3rd place in Pool 1 with 13 points. The player of the match was Sean Gilbert. He seems to be really settling in at Connacht. Just looking at his URC stats, he has a kick success rate of 91%, 29 points, 1 try, 1 assist, 37 carries and 234 metres gained and 4 clean breaks. So Connacht qualified for the round of 16 with 2 wins, 2 losses, 3 try bonus points and 2 losing bonus points. So for Connacht, they're finishing on a high, especially ahead of that opening of the Clan stand next week against Leinster. So we're back to the URC next week with the Six Nations gaining upon us. As I said, Andy Farrell names the squad this Wednesday. Some players I feel may have played their way into contention. I think Harry Byrne is someone that has kind of come from the wilderness after that time away. He's really cemented himself back at Leinster. He's really played really well throughout the season. So he could be someone in Andy Farrell's thoughts, especially with Kieran Frawley that injury. We don't know the extent of that at the moment. Also, another person, JJ Kenny, he's been absolutely brilliant for Leinster. He definitely has to be mentioned by the coaching ticket for Ireland. A couple of other people, maybe Edwin Adogbo from Munster. I think, again, he was kind of one of the standouts yesterday for Munster with Craig Casey. Also for the season, he's played really well. He might be in Andy Farrell's thoughts. Also, the Ward brothers up at Ulster, Bryn and Zach, they may have done enough to potentially get into Andy Farrell's thoughts for the squad. And then looking at other people that maybe have lowered their stock over the weekend, potentially Jack Crowley. I think those kicking issues may play on the minds of Andy Farrell or someone like Johnny Sexton, who'd be looking at fly halves. Although I think his general all-round game and some of the stats I mentioned from the URC may just keep him as a potential in that squad. Also, Tom Farrell as well. I think he was very lucky to get away with that yellow card. It could have easily been red. He may be cited for that, but that could be a potential mark against him come Wednesday. And then the injury list is quite a substantial injury list from Robbie Henshaw. That knee brace report does not sound good. Paddy McCarthy, he's going to be out. He's getting a procedure. We'll know more probably tomorrow. Andrew Porter, Finlay Bealham, Tadhg Furlong. Again, the front row seems to be a big issue and a big headache for Andy Farrell. Tommy O'Brien, it's really disappointed seeing him potentially. Hopefully it's not a serious injury after he's just had such a brilliant run of games after all those injuries he's had in previous years. Jimmy O'Brien again just to come back and then to be potentially injured. James Lowe I think is injured. He hasn't played for Leinster in a while. Matt Hansen again with that foot injury. Also Calvin Nash, Munster kind of gave a few weeks for his potential return. Kieran Frawley, we haven't heard much about what that particular injury was. And then Jamie Osborne, I think there's reports that he's set to miss all of the Six Nations. Then on a slightly more positive note, Hugo Keenan does seem to be coming back. He's been training with Leinster the past couple of weeks, but he just hasn't played since that line tour. And it's a potential worry not having those minutes, not having any game time under his belt going into a potential game with, say, France. It is a bit of a worry. It's going to be a bit of a headache for Andy Farrell and his team the next few days. However, I'm delighted for Connacht and Ulster and Leinster making it through to the last 16 of the respective competitions. Good for Munster, but again, they'll have a chance in that Challenge Cup last 16. So looking at those last 16 fixtures, which are as follows in the Champions Cup. These are to be played on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of April. Bordeaux face Leicester. Toulouse face Stormers. Bath face Saracens. Northampton Saints face Cast. Glasgow Warriors face Bulls. Toulon face Bristol Bears. Leinster face Edinburgh. Harlequins face Sale Sharks. And then in the Challenge Cup, also to be played on the 3rd, 4th and 5th of April, Montpellier face Perpignan. Connacht face Sharks. Zebra face Section Paloise. Stade Francais play Dragons. Benetton play Cardiff. Exeter play Munster. Newcastle play La Rochelle. And Ulster face Ospreys. What was your moment of the weekend from the Irish provinces in action? Was there anyone that particularly stood out for you? And who do you think will be named in Andy Farrell's Six Nations squad this coming Wednesday? Do you think anyone played themselves into contention this weekend? Please drop your predictions in the comments below. Thanks as always for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.